Okay. It is July the 9th today. Oh my God. That's Tesla's birthday. It's Tesla's birthday today.
Wow.
I mean, some people have them on the 10th, but it's really the 9th of July.
It's
Um,
always his birthday?
Nikola Tesla. Yeah. So today, and I just had a big power outage. As soon as we were about to start earlier, there's a flash of lightning right on cue. Today's subject is so powerful, because it's going to give us a confirmation of everything we've been doing in the inner circle, because we started with this number 591, which is a position in the solar system. I'm just going to bring this up because now we have a new interstellar visitor, like a bow and an arrow. The universe is sending this interstellar visitor right for 591's hyperdimensional orbit. It's heading right for it. And then it will reach the hyperdimensional orbit of 591, which again is the number of days after my wife's death that she called out my name audibly, waking me up out of my sleep, and led to this whole model. So let's just recap before we go into
With his dead wife. Yeah.
591. Let's just I did kind of pull up this image. Okay. This is just getting incredible. So here we go. There's one image. So this is the image from JPL, NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And it's coming in bottom left to top right. So it's called 3I, not 31, but 3I Atlas has been renamed. And it's coming in. It is extra um, terrestrial, meaning it's beyond our solar system. So it had to penetrate the Oort cloud, which is phenomenal enough in itself. Nobody's even talking about that. How does an interstellar visitor penetrate the Oort cloud without getting hit by massive chunks of ice? I mean, I don't know how that happens. Nobody's even brought that up. But we can see Mars has an orbit of 686.98 Earth days per year. So it has a longer, of course, orbit than Earth. Earth is 365.256, which is this blue circle. So Mars is this orange reddish circle here. And of course, Venus would be this purple, and Mercury would be the pink. So it's going too fast for the sun's gravity to pull it in. So it will come in its exact position, which I've done the math on. It's coming right for position 591, which means if I put another ring in here, let's say I put a green ring in here, which I'll do, right here is 591. So how could this be? How could this possibly be? Because for the whole last couple of years, we've focused on the 591 model, which 591 to the golden ratio builds our entire hyperdimensional solar system, known only to Dante in the Divine Comedy. When he reaches the outer position of the solar system, an angel shows him, who is Beatrice, his tour.
Maybe they're coming to meet you because they watched your videos. Just kidding.
No, it's all just timed perfectly. Like, let's say my wife never died and we never knew what the number 591 was, and this happened.
It's
Of course, nobody would notice. Of course.
right.
And the number of people noticing, again, is so small, comparatively, because there's so few people following this. But that's another story. So let me pull up the model, the 591 model that we have, and then we're going to go deeper into this mysterious object. and what we know about it and what the dates are. So yes, there'll be an inner circle started. We'll take a break in August, so we won't be here in August, but we will continue in September because this thing is going to be huge. And its secret is so deep. Its secret is so deep. So right here, we have the hyperdimensional model of the hyperdimensional solar system with the number 591.
Mhm.
The number divided by the golden ratio gave us the exact orbit of Earth, divided by the golden ratio, 99% the orbit of Venus, divided by the golden ratio gave us hyperdimensional planet 139.516, which aligns with the Ascension Day of Jesus, the miracle of the sun at Fatima, St. Francis's Ascension Day, and the birth date of the Buddha. Divided by the golden ratio again, we get Mercury. Divided by the golden ratio again, we get Seraphim, and then planet Vulcan. And then 591 times the golden ratio. We don't get Mars. Remember, Mars is out. Mars is actually in its own harmony. So is Uranus, is in its Neptune is in its own harmony. Uranus is it's in harmony, but it's a little bit out. But we got planet Virtues, dwarf planet Ceres, powers, Jupiter, principalities, Saturn, archangels, Uranus, angels, and Neptune. So these are all in harmony to this mathematical formula 591 to the golden ratio. So that's why it matters so much that supposed comet SI Atlas is heading right for 591 is to put the mark on the map. And what it's going to do when it reaches it, we don't know. Is it going to hit it? And then there'll be an explosion and we won't know what caused the explosion. I have no idea what it's going to do. Is it going to skim right by it? Is it going to drop off a FedEx package or something from Amazon and then continue on to the sun? We don't know. But this is so stunning. It's so absolutely stunning. And the proof is actually in the actual orbit. And nobody noticed this. So I did the calculations on our incoming. Actually, let me find just for a second. I have the actual video. Here's the first of all, this is, let's go to the Wikipedia page, and then there's a short video by NASA. I mean, this literally has been on every news channel in the world. It's been on CNN, it's been everywhere. So this is now Wikipedia put up a page really fast. It's discovered July 1st, which is not only Canada Day, it's Dan Aykroyd's birthday. And I'm re-editing my Dan Aykroyd Unplugged on UFOs. There's going to be a director's recut release with a major Hollywood distributor coming soon, just for people who are interested. It's really a stunning new piece of work I've done. So here we go. Let me zoom in on this. So here is an actual
Wow.
picture of it. And this picture, it's this circle in the middle here. Well, all the the stars in the background are streaking by because the object we're looking at is moving. Everything else streaks by. So let me just kind of zoom in on it there. You can see it here. A nice circle, which is quite amazing in itself. The diameter and the size of this is enormous. It's enormous. It's going to be, its size projections are in the range of 12 to 15 miles. So here we go right here, 0.5 to 14.9 miles are the size estimates. It's more likely, again, it's so early that it's hard to know its exact size yet. And you have to understand, there are three visitors. We had Oumuamua discovered the 19th of October in
Mhm.
2017. So you have to understand, that is the discover date. But Oumuamua, we discovered it late. We discovered it after it went around the sun, and we backtracked the math on it. And I was actually the first one to note that it was behaving as if it had its own internal propulsion system based on the math. Avi Loeb's confirmation of that came way after mine, and mine was public because I talked about it on podcasts. And you'll see this in a minute. There were a total of 3. So there was 21 Borisov, and then there is now 33i Atlas. And I'm gonna show you that, what that all means in a second here. So it is going close to 140,000 miles an hour right now. So that's way too fast to be a comet or meteor from inside the solar system. And again, the comets and meteors inside the solar system will stay between the Oort cloud and the orbit of the sun in the solar system. So before we go into that, I'm going to show you what I did with it. And the math on this thing is perfectly harmonic to the golden ratio. Perfectly harmonic to the golden ratio is impossible, because the randomness, not that randomness is not sophisticated, but the randomness of ordinary visitors, comets, is such that you're not going to be able to calculate in the periods of time between them any harmony at all. So what I found is David Sereda calculated that all 3 of these visitors in their positions closest to the sun and the earth both are in harmony to the golden ratio squared. This, which I will demonstrate very simply. I don't know what prompted me to do this calculation. It's almost like just being guided. But the fact that both positions closest to each the sun and the earth orbit being in this harmony have to be by intelligent design. Ordinary commentary randomness never does this. No astronomers have ever noticed this intelligent design ratio. Of course, this thing is only days old. So we're July 9th. It was discovered 8 days ago. It was discovered by Robert Warwick using the Pan-STARRS telescope at Haleakala Observatory, Hawaii on the 19th of October 2017. This is Oumuamua. We're talking first about Oumuamua. Approximately 40 days after it passed its closest point to the sun on September to the 11th of September of 2017. So I remember this really well. Now notice that Oumuamua was discovered on the 19th of October, and that's the date this past year when Jesus spoke to me and gave me the calculations, which also ended up being perfect calculations representing the harmony of the order. So Oumuamua's closest approach to Earth occurred on the 14th of October 2017. 21 Borisov, originally designated C2019, Borisov is the first observer rogue comet and second observed interstellar interloper after Oumuamua. So there's 3 of them. And once you have 3, you need 3 or more to calculate your ratios. It was discovered by Crimean amateur astronomer and telescope maker Gennady Borisov on the 29th of August, 2019. 21 Borisov has a heliocentric orbital eccentricity, which is where the closest approach to the sun is 8th of December 2019, and the comet passed closest to Earth on the 28th of December. You see, what I'm going to do is, and now 31 Atlas closest to the sun date is October 29th. It was originally October 23rd. So again, if these dates slide a little bit, it's not going to change my ratio very much. And then its closest position to Mars and thus Earth is October 3rd, 2025. And it's not how close it is to Earth, it's how close it is to the orbit of Earth. So now what I do, and I did this in this particular calculation here, doesn't have the full calculation. I'm going to have to go get that right now because I emailed it to myself. Hang on a second. And so to show the what happened? Oh, I know what's going on here. Stop share. There we are. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so I've got to get the full calculation because the full calculation is going to show I may as well get it here. The ratios of all three. So you have Oumuamua, 21 Borisov, and then you have the new one, 3i Atlas. On when you map their closest positions to the sun, dates to each other, and their closest positions to Earth orbit to each other, then you will see that they are all, there it is right here. Visitor 2, Visitor 3. Okay, I have it in the form of an email, so but I'm going to have to extract this and put it in my document so that I have this properly for the record. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go back to the document. It's important to document this for the video because I'm going to be putting this up. Here we go. Now I will check the ratio of all three visitors' closest point to the sun and positions to each other. From Oumuamua, closest point to the sun, perihelion September 9th to 21 Borisov, which is December 8th, is 820 days. 21 Borisov's closest point to the sun to 31 Atlas is 2,152 days. The ratio of 820 to 2152 is 1 to 2.624 39024, which is right within the golden ratio squared of 2.618. The square root of it is 1 to 1.619 instead of 1 to 1.618, right? You see what I'm saying? That is perfection as far as I'm concerned in the golden ratio, if you understand the golden ratio. So the visitors, all three visitors closest points to the sun are 1 to the golden ratio squared. Now, the golden ratio squared is part of the message. You're going to see why it's doing this. Now I will check, and when I was going to check the closest points to Earth's orbit, I thought it's not going to happen again. It can't be that perfect. There's no way this is going to happen, but it did. Oumuamua's closest approach to Earth was on October 14th, 27. To 21 Borisov passed closest to the Earth on the 28th of December, 2019, 805 days later. 21 Borisov's closest point to Earth, the 28th of December, to 31 Atlas closest point to Earth. It's actually Earth-Mars, because it's once you're in line with the Earth-Mars orbit, you'll understand that it's the same. It's never going to evolve to another orbit because it's not going to loop around the sun and come back towards us. Is 2,106 days. So the ratio of 805 to 2106 is 1 to 2.616 instead of 1 to 2.618. So the square root of this number is 1.61745 instead of 1.618. So you're well within 99% perfection on the golden ratio of the positions of our visitors. So now we have to go back to, let's go back to here where we started today, because we can now really understand that the position of the alignment mathematically to you see the blue line, Earth's orbit, and you see the white line, which is the trajectory of 31 Atlas. At this position of Mars, which is the date we use for Mars, will be the closest, pretty much within a day or two, which won't change the ratio, of the position of 33I Atlas to the orbit of Earth. Now, where the physical Earth is in this orbit on that date, I don't know. That's a different number. But the orbital pathway or trajectory of Earth, in its semicircular orbit. I mean, these orbits are elliptical. They're not circles. They're ellipses. Is remarkable. So again, when I calculated the math on this exact trajectory for 3I Atlas, in its ratio, it turns out it's right within position 591. That would mean if I put hyperdimensional planet 591 here and I calculated how many days it's going to take to go around the Earth at 591 days, it's going to be right in line with 31 Atlas. I mean, you have to understand this thing most likely is going to miss hyperdimensional planet 591, but the whole point of this is it's pointing to it. And that's incredible. What does it mean for humanity? This isn't just me trying to prove something about a life after death experience for my family alone. It's for all humanity, because if you really understand how this works, is in retrospect for the Christian Bible prophesizing the new heaven and the new earth, and that the prophet Isaiah is saying we actually have to look for it. We have to look for the new heaven and the new earth. The orbit of 591, when we experience 591 years on Earth, planet 591 will experience 365 years. So they're the reverse complementary to each other in that we share inversely the same mathematical numbers. And what happens every 591 years on Earth is in this diagram here, which is, I've never shared this one publicly yet. This is something I was working on and I kind of forgot to cover it. I think we did cover it a little bit in the inner circle. So basically, when you calculate the birth of the prophets, and here we have Daniel and Ezekiel born in 623 BC. The Buddha is born in 623 BCE. And I calculated the coincidences of Jesus' birth to the visions of Daniel and Ezekiel and Buddha's nirvana are within 591 years. And Jesus' crucifixion to the vision of Muhammad's journey through the seven heaven is within 591 years of each other. And this north latitude of the Great Pyramid of 29.979 degrees north latitude runs right through and many archaeologists put this little red dot here in the Gulf of Kuwait as the location for the biblical Garden of Eden. And also,
Muhammad died 632.
no, this is the vision of the journey through the seven heavens, sure.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is really the epic of his enlightenment. So
Yes.
I'm measuring the position of when Ezekiel and Daniel's visions occurred, which is actually, incidentally, all in their 30s, including the Buddha, his nirvana. So they're all, and when I calculate from the position of Jesus's birth going forward 591 years, I first come to literally the prophets of Europe, the visionary prophets of Europe, which one of them is Swedenborg, and then I come to the Declaration of Independence and the visions that George Washington and the other founding fathers had for the creation of the first free, true free society and country in the history of the world, where the people in the beginning had all the power, even though they don't anymore. So I mapped all this. So the period in the cycle is every 591 years, every 591 years, every
Oh no.
591 years. And these
We
prophets,
lost him again?
remember, we mapped, and
It-
we did this a few weeks ago using my pyramid and harmony of the order. The birthplace of the Buddha came into perfect harmony of the order of the planet Neptune and Earth. It was phenomenal, right? Remember, we did that. So I know that now that the Buddha's enlightenment and birth are within the visions of Daniel and Ezekiel, because they're both right around the same time, right? Give or take, again, the accuracy is never going to be 100%, but if you're sitting at 97 to 99%, you're in this phenomenal territory. Again, why does this cycle of 591 matter? Because it's all part of the message of the visitor, because the visitor is like the golden tip of the arrow. In fact, I may as well put this, because when I did the math on the Gandharva bow, the great, the great mythological bow in ancient Hinduism, it really is the symbol of the universe pointing the arrow to where we should be paying attention. And I guarantee you, mainstream astronomers don't know any of this. In fact, I have some connections into that world, and these people are just, again, they've disconnected. Mainstream astronomy has disconnected itself from, pieces of work like the Surya Vedanta and the ancient knowledge of the Babylonian astronomers, the Greek astronomers, the philosophical astronomers, and their connections to the heavens and the gods and the goddesses. They've lost all of that. I mean, they're really hardcore, fist to the wall, want solid physical data. This is mythic data, and it's real data. It's real data, because not only does 591 appear as a cycle between the most illuminated beings that have affected the modern world. And when I say the modern world, I'm saying after the Ice Age, because this world goes back millions of years. So this is probably a message of absolute perfection. Now, the message of 1 to the golden ratio squared and cubed is a way higher level of this message. But now what's going to happen is we're going to come to within the climax of what this is all about. I'm trying to find Avi Loeb's book here, because the Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb is the first one to, in fact, let's look at just for a minute the orbit of Oumuamua. Orbit of Oumuamua. And the orbit of Oumuamua was here. Astronomy magazine. I think I found it here. Let's see if I can get this image bigger. Oumuamua's path. And it's really good to look at this, because the next thing I'm going to go into is the size comparisons, because our new visitor is potentially huge and is already bigger, far bigger than 21 Borisov and Oumuamua. So you see, this is Oumuamua's trajectory. And here you can, and I haven't done this yet. I haven't mapped Oumuamua's closest point to Earth orbit, Mars orbit, the sun. to uh to all of the different positions in the solar system as a singular, but you notice how bent the angle of trajectory is compared to our new visitor, which is coming in more like it's just going to dip in and then leave. You see how this angle of trajectory changes here, right? It changes. I mean, see, they've got the perihelion, which is the closest position of Oumuamua to the sun, as September 9th here. But the 9th through the 11th is the same. It's the same distance. I mean, you're not going to change more than a tiny shaving over a couple of days. So that's what Oumuamua's trajectory looked like. Let's look at um, um, the orbit of 21 Borisov. I remember when 21 Borisov came in. Again, when these are extra, they're not from here.
When did Borisov come in?
21 Borisov came in
2019?
2019.
Oh my
Closest point to the
God.
sun, December 8th.
Okay, we have to talk, okay, today sometime.
Okay. So there's a lot that happens energetically on the Earth. There's a lot that gets transferred in the form of an interior awakening when these things happen. But I think we largely miss the message on Oumuamua. I know that we did a radio transmissions to Oumuamua long after it left the inner solar system. Once you know the size of the object, and if 3i Atlas is going to be a 12-mile object, you can calculate the frequency based on its wavelength that it might respond to. So you could send a beam at it at a certain frequency. And I'm really shocked that mainstream astronomers have not thought of this. So let me just share 21 Borisov before we go to the next position on this, because we want to be ready. And doing the frequencies of 591 as it's approaching the Mars Earth perimeter is going to be very powerful, and that's going to be October 3rd. So we'll reconvene in the first week of September here to be working with those frequencies. So this is 21 Borisov. There's a photo of it here. There it is, 21 Borisov's orbit. So 21 Borisov came just outside of the orbit of Mars. I don't know where, if it's coming in. Yeah, it probably came in out here is the orbit of Saturn and Jupiter. So we're going to have to back math 21 3i Atlas to see when did it cross Saturn's orbit, when did it cross Jupiter's, etc. So here's 21 Borisov. Also did not get captured. It's Q4. No, that's Q4. Wait, this isn't what I want. I don't know if that's 21 Borisov. Yeah, 21 Borisov, Q4. Yeah, that was it. That was correct. Right. So size and shape. See, Borisov had a diameter that ranged from 1.4 to 16 early estimates. 1.4 to 16 kilometers in size. I don't know if they ever resolved it, size and shape. early estimates. 1.4 to 16 kilometers is pretty poor resolution. It means you don't really know how big this thing is. I don't know. I don't know how well things like that get resolved. There's a lot of interesting math on these things, but oh, there we go. Let me just bring that up again to 21 Borisov. So size and shape, nucleus, 1.4 to 16 kilometers. So potentially still pretty big, but not as big as our new visitor. So there you go. So that's what we're looking at. We are currently shifting on our frequencies in the inner circle this week. And again, it's really good to see this again, because when you really understand this is where we started, when you're using let's say I'm using vision, spiritual vision, and mathematics to develop a model that is consistent with what the poet Dante saw, not in his imagination, but Dante's actual spiritual visions. If you understand Dante, he's not just making this stuff up. He's having real visions. And that the ancient Egyptians had the Aeneid system, had at least two sets of nines. So the nine familiar spheres, and again, in antiquity, Uranus and Neptune were not discovered yet, and that Dante would describe the eighth and the ninth sphere as being blue greenish, and Uranus and Neptune being blue greenish is remarkable, and that in this position here, where my X is, the angelic personality of Beatrice shows Dante there's nine more spheres of the angels cascading back towards the sun, and why there has always been nine spheres of angels since antiquity, and that the ancient Egyptians had an upper nine planets of the supreme beings and the nine lower spheres being the traditional, also was not known in antiquity because there were seven. There were always seven, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and counting the sun, by the way, in antiquity. So there was no Vulcan in antiquity. Again, we've already discussed planet Vulcan being a hyperdimensional planet discovered at the Paris Observatory, in the later part of the 19th century. So that we've already discovered that. But the fact that the math works when you have a spiritual vision, like I did, giving us the number 591, 591 to the golden ratio gave us this whole model. And now the next level of the message is quite incredible. It's quite incredible because when you start seeing that to detect that which is not visible, that is not tangible, and that physicists acknowledge in antimatter, they fully acknowledge on the CERN website based on Paul Dirac's, theory, and later the confirmation of antimatter, that there can be antimatter persons, antimatter planets, antimatter stars, and antimatter solar systems, and even a whole antimatter galaxy that is invisible, which can mirror opposite the physical dimension, is a form of evidence and support for all of this. The question is, why is this going to hit this target, and what can we do with 1 to the golden ratio squared? There's a lot I can do with 1 to the golden ratio squared and cubed. I'm going to give you one example. This is incredible. Really incredible. So you're going to look at my calculator, and then we'll be finished for today. This is a simple calculation. Okay, so I'm going to enter the height of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. And I'm going to divide it. No, wait. I'm going to give us the cube root. The cube root of the height of the pyramid is the frequency of Earth. The Tesla-Schumann resonance is 7.83 hertz. So again, I just cubed that, which is just times itself, as in a cube. And I'm going to come back to the height of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. Now, this came into my consciousness to do this calculation because I'm trying to, I started with, okay, so you start with 7.83 fundamental Tesla-Schumann resonance, and you square it, and you get this number, right? So, and then if you take 7.83, remember, we don't have all the decimals of accuracy of the Tesla-Schumann resonance, and I cube it. Why do I get the height of the Great Pyramid of Egypt, right? Why does that happen? Does it tell us that the ancient Egyptians knew the frequency of Earth? The frequency of Earth? And then you get into frequency transmitting devices like I've been making for over 20 years. And how frequency transmission into the nervous system can affect the process of insight, creative insight, and awakening of higher intelligence centers in the brain, which very few people are doing in the world. You look at the idea of when those shifts in the brain occur, if they manifest on the earth, life for people on the earth completely changes. So with that discovery, what can we do in the solar system with the golden ratio squared and cubed? I just gave you one example. We just solved one of the greatest riddles of the Great Pyramid right there, and that was simple to do. So with that, everybody have a great day, and we're going to be staying tuned to this. Next week, we'll continue on the commentary of plasma and consciousness and frequency. So have a great week. Thank you.
Yes.